said, what's your plan on major?
Um, so I am not sure at the moment. My current plan is I'm trying to get a special major approved, which is a major that you construct on your own. Um, and that was because when I was looking at other majors, there wasn't really anything that I like. I had very like specific passions about what I wanted to study and what I wanted to learn more about. Um, and I just kind of started constructing my proposal before I even knew it. So hopefully I'll be able to get that done this summer and try to get it approved. Fingers crossed. Um, but to get more into it, essentially what I want to do is I want to study systemic or institutional oppression. So essentially how society is constructed or is built to oppress certain groups of people over others. Um, and one of the things that kind of really spurred this interest in me was I was in this class this semester, and our professor gave us this definition from Professor Ruth Wilson Gilmore. She defined racism specifically as the state sanctioned and extra legal group differentiated vulnerability to premature death, and that blew my mind in 1,000 different ways at the time. But I've come to sort of think about the ways in which the group differentiated vulnerability to premature death could apply to uh, oppression as a whole. So that could apply to like ableism and sexism, as well as racism. So this like group differentiated vulnerability to premature death. I was kind of thinking about those ideas, and so I really wanted to study that more. I wanted to study systemic oppression on like a holistic level, and the ways in which that systemic oppression is lethal and could be tantamount to genocide.
Whoa.
Wow. That definition blew my mind. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah,
But
it's very it's something that I didn't consider before. It's something that, I'd never framed any type of discrimination or institutional oppression or just marginalization before as framed in sort of the lens of like premature death, which blew my mind too.
so what are the requirements for you to create your own major? Like what would stop you? Like why would they need to I mean, I understand why they need to approve it, but are there any hindering factors or anything else like external that you need for this to work?
Yeah, so the one thing that's needed is there needs to be an institutional precedent at a peer institution. So essentially, a similar institution to Columbia and Barnard I have to demonstrate that there's some precedent that this is kind of being done in some modality at another institution. Um,
Uh,
for it to really be approved. And then the other thing is it needs to be broad enough to fit within the bounds of like a liberal arts curriculum. And it can't be too specific, um, because the name of the game in liberal arts is sort of building critical thinking skills and being exploring all these different subject areas and um, dipping your toe into all these different academic areas, and then concentrating on one broad but more specific area.
I see. Okay. And what classes or electives are you taking now?
So I kind of choose my classes on a semester basis. And so this year I took everything from like a couple psychology classes. I took a class on American education and educational inequality and like the American educational system. That was really amazing. I took a class on women and culture. I took a class solely about the American middle class. I took an American studies class. Yes, I took a bunch of different classes in a bunch of different departments that I really loved.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So, speaking more or backtracking about institutionalization and just marginalizing people, what was your motivation behind? I mean, you talked about like your personal own experiences, but were there any other factors that made you want to consider this as like a field of study?
Um, I think, obviously just being so uh, obviously so shocked and um, interested and um, just really fascinated by the things I read and was was allowed to explore this year intellectually. It just was an area of interest that I'm really passionate about. Institutional oppression. I also think that there could always uh, just be more exploration in terms of that. But I think on a more personal level, being able to understand institutional and systemic barriers and systemic oppression and other forms of oppression and discrimination has been like really healing for me because as a differently abled woman specifically, I've experienced had a lot of like adverse experiences. I feel and have experienced a lot that has really hurt me in the past, and so to sort of understand systemic oppression and to understand institutional oppression a bit more this year, and to then be able to apply that and understand and identify the ways in which I am marginalized has been really healing for me. And so I think that's the motivation.